Hey, I'm Sarah, and I'm excited to share Celeste's story with you. It's called My Parents Demanded I Sell My House to Cover My Sister's $150,000 debt, even though they disowned me 5 years ago. They said family helps family, but I said no. So, they broke into my place and trashed everything. But they didn't know my house was, well, let's dive in. I'm Celeste, 33, chilling in my home office on what felt like a normal Tuesday morning. I'm a programmer at a big tech company, and let me tell you, the pay's pretty sweet. For years back, I took a leap and bought this house with a mortgage. Best move I ever made. Now, I've got my office set up here, working from home thanks to my company's remote policy. Things have been going great lately. About a year ago, I met Marcus online, and he's amazing. He lives in another state, so we're rocking the long-distance vibe. He visits me, I visit him. It's been awesome. I'm even thinking about selling my house to move closer to him. Since I can work from anywhere, why not take the chance? I was deep in my coding zone when that familiar email ping broke my focus. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something nudged me to check. The email hit my old inbox, the one I rarely open. When I saw the sender, my heart sank. Mom. I haven't spoken to my family in 5 years. 5 long years. And trust me, there's a solid reason why. Let me rewind and share the chaos that is my family. I've got parents, mom and dad, both in their early 60s now. Then there's my sister Sarah, 36, 3 years older than me. She's married to David, a guy who's just as messy as she is. 5 years back, things weren't like this. I was still in touch with them, playing the family role. I was earning good money, renting a place, and stashing away cash to buy a house. I'd saved up $120,000. Man, I was so proud of that. My plan was to put down a huge down payment so my monthly mortgage would be manageable. Every Saturday, I'd go to my parents' house for dinner. It was this tradition we had. I actually looked forward to it back then, if you can believe that. But then came that one Saturday that changed everything. I walked into my parents' house, and Sarah and David were already there, talking excitedly to mom and dad about something. I said hi to everyone and sat down at the table. That's when mom turned to me with this big smile and said, Sarah's planning to open her own business, and we just know she's going to be tremendously successful. I smiled back, but inside I was thinking, here we go again. See, this wasn't Sarah's first rodeo. She'd already tried starting businesses twice before, and both times it ended in complete disaster. Both times, mom and dad had to bail her out and pay off her debts. But I kept my mouth shut because I knew if I said anything, I'd be the bad guy. My parents always took Sarah's side. Sarah was practically bouncing in her seat. I've got everything figured out this time, Celeste. I have a complete business plan, and I only need money for development. Then she and David both turned to look at me, like really staring at me with these expectant faces. Why are you guys looking at me like that? I asked. Sarah's voice got all sweet and manipulative. Well, I know you're saving up for a house, and I know you've got about $120,000 in your account. My blood went cold. I'm not investing my house money in your business, Sarah. She immediately got defensive and started going on and on about how she'd thought everything through this time. How if I gave her the money, in a couple years she'd double my investment and give me back $240,000. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Sarah, you've already failed at business twice. Maybe it's time to stop with these schemes and get a regular job like the rest of us. That's when everything went to hell. Sarah's face went red. She started crying and ran out of the house. David called me an idiot and followed her out. So there I was, alone with mom and dad, thinking maybe now they'd see reason. But no, they immediately started in on me, calling me cruel, saying I was selfish and greedy. I was just telling the truth. I said, if she starts another business, she's just going to rack up more debt. But mom wasn't having it. Sarah is more talented than you, Celeste. You're just jealous of her success. Then dad dropped the ultimatum. You give Sarah that $120,000, or we're cutting you out of this family completely. I looked at both of them, these people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and I said, I'm not giving her my money. They kicked me out, their own daughter. They actually told me to leave and never come back. The next day, I changed my phone number. I made sure none of them could contact me. A year later, I bought my house, just like I planned. For 5 years, I've lived without them. I heard through mutual friends that Sarah actually did start her business, and it was going well. She bought a nice house, was traveling with David all the time. I was genuinely happy for her, but I still didn't want anything to do with any of them. So, you can imagine how I felt seeing Mom's name in my inbox after all this time. My hands were actually shaking as I opened the email. Celeste, we need to see you urgently. This is a matter of life and death. Please come home. My first thought was that one of them was dying. As angry as I still was, I'm not heartless. If someone was dying, I needed to know. I realized they probably used my old email because they couldn't reach me any other way. I sat there for a long time, staring at that email. Part of me wanted to delete it and pretend I never saw it. But what if Dad was having a heart attack? What if Mom had cancer? I'd never forgive myself if something happened and I didn't at least find out what was going on. So I wrote back, short and to the point, I'll come by this Saturday. Saturday morning came way too fast. I barely slept the night before, running through every possible scenario in my head. I drove to my parents' house with my stomach in knots. It's weird being back in that neighborhood after 5 years. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. When I pulled up to the driveway, I noticed 2 cars already parked there, Sarah's Porsche and David's Mercedes. Both looked brand new and expensive as hell. Great. So, this wasn't just going to be me and my parents. Sarah and David were here, too. I sat in my car for a minute, trying to gather my courage. Whatever this was about, it was obviously involving the whole family. I walked up to the front door and knocked. Mom opened it, and for a second, we just stared at each other. She looked older, more tired. There were new lines around her eyes. Celeste, she said, and her voice was shaky. Thank you for coming. I followed her into the living room, and there they all were. Dad was sitting in his usual chair, looking grim. Sarah was on the couch next to David, and she looked like she'd been crying. Her eyes were all red and puffy. The weird thing was, they all looked happy to see me despite everything, but also worried sick about something. Okay, I said, staying standing because I didn't want to get too comfortable. What's going on? Your email said this was life and death. Mom sat down and immediately started tearing up. It's about Sarah. She's in serious trouble. I looked over at my sister. She couldn't even meet my eyes. David was holding her hand, and he looked scared. What kind of trouble? I asked. Dad cleared his throat. Her business went under 3 months ago. She owes a lot of money to the bank, and they took her house. I felt a weird mix of sadness and vindication. I was sad for Sarah because losing her home sucks, but part of me was thinking, I told you so. But I kept that to myself. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. But what does this have to do with me? Mom wiped her eyes. That's not all. Even after losing the house, she still owes money. A lot of money to some very dangerous people. Sarah finally spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. $150,000. Who do you owe $150,000 to? David answered for her. Private investors. They're not the kind of people who accept, I'll pay you later, as an answer. They've been calling, Sarah said, crying again, making threats. They know where we live now. They know our routines. We're scared, Celeste. I felt bad for them. I really did. But I still didn't understand why I was there. That's terrible. But I still don't see what you want from me. That's when Mom dropped the bomb. We know you bought a house. A nice one. We think you should sell it and help Sarah pay off these debts. I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Are you out of your goddamn mind? You're young, Mom said. You can earn another house. Sarah and David could be seriously hurt if they don't pay this money back. I looked around the room at all of them. So, let me get this straight. You kicked me out of the family 5 years ago because I wouldn't give Sarah money for her business. Now, that business has failed spectacularly. She's in debt to some scary people, and you want me to sell my house to bail her out. Family helps family, Dad said. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You told me I wasn't family anymore. Remember? You cut me off completely. Sarah started sobbing harder. I know we messed up before, but this is different. These people aren't going to just take us to court. They're going to hurt us. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you borrowed money from loan sharks, I said. David got mad. You have no idea what kind of pressure we're under. You're right. I don't. But I saw 2 very expensive cars in the driveway. Maybe start by selling those and paying off some of the debt. We need those cars for work, Sarah snapped. You need them more than you need to be safe from dangerous creditors? Mom stood up and got right in my face. This house you bought, if you sold it, you could pay off Sarah's debts and still have money left over for a nice apartment. A nice apartment? I was getting really pissed off now. Mom, I worked my ass off for that house. I saved every penny for years. I'm not selling it to fix Sarah's mess. She's your sister, Dad said. She's also a grown woman who made her own choices. Bad choices, apparently. Sarah jumped up from the couch. You're supposed to help me. You're supposed to care about what happens to me. Where was this family loyalty 5 years ago when you all told me to get lost? That was different, Mom said. How was it different? You didn't want to help me keep my money then, and I don't want to help you with your money problems now. The room went quiet for a minute. Everyone was staring at me like I was the villain here. I'm not doing this, I said. Sarah got herself into this mess, and she can get herself out. If you want to help her so badly, sell your house and give her the money. Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. This is the only house we have. We're old, Celeste. We can't just start over like you can. Then I guess you understand how I feel about my house. I started walking toward the door. Sarah called after me. You're making a huge mistake. These people don't mess around. I turned back to look at her. Neither do I. I left them all sitting there and drove home. As soon as I got back to my house, I blocked Mom's email address. I was done with their drama. For about a week, things were actually peaceful. I didn't hear a peep from any of them. I was starting to think maybe they'd finally gotten the message that I wasn't going to be their family ATM. Marcus called me every day during that week, and I told him everything that happened. You did the right thing, he kept saying. They can't just show up after 5 years and demand you fix their problems. I was actually feeling pretty good about my decision. Sure, I felt bad that Sarah was in trouble, but that wasn't my fault or my responsibility. I had my own life to worry about. Then Tuesday morning happened. I was in my kitchen making coffee when I heard a car door slam outside. I looked out the window and nearly dropped my mug. Mom and Dad were walking up my driveway. How the hell did they find my address? I opened the front door before they could knock, and I was pissed. What are you doing here? How did you even get my address? Mom looked proud of herself. Sarah hired a private investigator. We needed to talk to you face to face since you blocked my email. A private investigator? I couldn't believe it. Are you serious right now? Dad was looking around at my house, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was calculating, figuring out how much it might be worth. This is a nice place, he said. Get off my property. But Mom pushed past me and walked right into my house like she owned the place. Dad followed her. I was so shocked by their nerve that I just stood there for a second. Don't make yourselves comfortable, I said. You're not staying. Mom was walking around my living room, touching things, examining everything. If you sold this house, you could easily pay off Sarah's debt and still have plenty left over for a smaller place. Maybe a nice apartment. I already told you I'm not selling my house. But look at all this space, Dad said, spreading his arms out. It's just you living here. You don't need all this room. What I need is none of your business. Mom turned to me with tears in her eyes again. Sarah is really scared, Celeste. These men called her yesterday. They know where she and David are staying now. They said if they don't get their money by the end of the month, something bad is going to happen. Then maybe Sarah should go to the police. The police can't help with this, Dad said. These aren't the kind of people who care about restraining orders. I was getting more and more frustrated. That's still not my problem. You both need to leave now. We're not leaving until you agree to help your sister, Mom said, crossing her arms. Then I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Dad grabbed my arm. Don't be ridiculous. Let go of me. I shook him off. I'm calling them right now if you don't get out of my house. They could tell I was serious. Mom started crying harder. Fine, but this isn't over, Celeste. If something happens to Sarah, it's on your head. And if something happens to my financial security because I bail out her bad decisions, that would be on my head too. At least this way, Only the person who made the mess deals with the consequences. Dad pointed his finger at me. You're going to regret this. Family is supposed to stick together. You didn't think that 5 years ago. They finally left, but not before Dad made some vague threat about me facing consequences for abandoning my family. I locked the door behind them and immediately called the realtor I'd been talking to a couple weeks earlier about maybe selling my house to move in with Marcus. Hey, it's Celeste. Remember we talked about putting my house on the market? I need to sell it as fast as possible. I'm willing to take a 5% discount if that helps move things along. Well, that's interesting timing. I actually have a buyer who's been looking in your area. With that kind of discount, I think he'd be very interested. Let me make some calls. 3 days later, he called me back with an offer. It was lower than I'd hoped, but it was fair considering the quick sale and the discount I was offering. I accepted immediately. Marcus was confused when I told him. I explained about my parents showing up at my house. I don't trust them, Marcus. I think they're going to keep harassing me, maybe even do something crazy. I'd rather sell the house and get the money somewhere safe where they can't see it. That's probably smart. And hey, this means you can come stay with me sooner than we planned. That made me smile for the first time in days. Are you okay with me staying at your place while I look for a new house in your area? Are you kidding? I've been hoping you'd move here. This just speeds up the timeline. The closing happened fast. Within a week, all the paperwork was done, and the house was officially sold. Marcus drove out to help me pack everything up and move it to his place. It felt good to have him there, to not be dealing with this stress alone. As we were loading the last of my boxes into the moving truck, I looked back at the house one more time. I'd been happy there. I'd worked hard to afford it, but I felt good about my decision to sell. I was starting a new chapter with Marcus, and my family couldn't use my house as leverage anymore. You okay? Marcus asked, putting his arm around me. Yeah, I'm good. Let's get out of here. We drove off together, and I felt this huge weight lift off my shoulders. Whatever happened with Sarah and her debt problems, it wasn't going to involve me or my money. I was finally free of their drama for good. Living with Marcus turned out to be amazing. His place was comfortable, and working remotely meant I could settle into a routine pretty quickly. We spent our evenings looking at houses online, planning our future together. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy and stress-free. I'd been living with Marcus for about a month when my phone rang one Tuesday morning. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but it had my old hometown area code. Is this Celeste Morrison? The voice was professional, official sounding. Yes. Who's calling? This is Officer Martinez with the Riverside Police Department. I'm calling about an incident involving your parents, Robert and Linda Morrison. My blood went cold. What kind of incident? They were arrested last night for breaking and entering and destruction of property. The homeowner wants to press charges. I was confused. Breaking and entering where? The address they broke into is listed as your former residence. Is 847 Maple Street a house you used to own? I sold that house a month ago. What were my parents doing there? That's what we're trying to figure out. They caused significant damage to the interior of the home. Destroyed furniture, broke windows, spray-painted walls. The new owner came home to find them in his living room, smashing his coffee table with a baseball bat. Are you serious? Very serious. The damage is estimated at around $40,000. Your parents claimed they thought it was still your house and that you'd wronged them somehow. They said they were getting back at you. I sat down hard on Marcus' couch. Officer, I need to tell you something. My parents have been harassing me for weeks, demanding I sell my house to give them money. I refused, and they made threats. What kind of threats? I told him everything, about Sarah's debts, about them showing up at my house uninvited, about the whole 5-year family drama. Officer Martinez listened patiently and took notes. So, they didn't know you'd sold the house? Obviously not. They probably went there to vandalize it, thinking they were destroying my property as revenge. That's what it looks like. The problem is they destroyed someone else's property instead. The new owner is understandably upset. He's filing insurance claims, but he wants your parents prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I don't blame him. After I hung up, I told Marcus what happened. He was as shocked as I was. That's insane, Celeste. They could have been shot. What if the homeowner had been armed? I hadn't even thought of that. My parents could have been killed over this stupid vendetta. Over the next few weeks, I got updates from the police and from some mutual friends back home. Mom and Dad were facing serious charges, but their lawyer worked out a plea deal. They admitted guilt in exchange for no jail time, but they had to pay full restitution to the homeowner. $40,000 for the property damage, plus legal fees, plus court costs. It ended up being close to 60 grand total. My friend Jenny called me with the whole story. Celeste, your parents had to sell their house. They couldn't afford the restitution any other way. They sold the house they said was their only asset. The one they were too old to replace. Yep. And here's the kicker. After paying everything they owed, they gave the remaining money to Sarah for her debt problems. I couldn't believe it. So, they ended up doing exactly what they wanted me to do, but with their own house instead of mine. That's not even the best part. Sarah's creditor problems? Turns out they weren't as scary as she made them sound. The dangerous people were just a legitimate investment firm that was threatening to sue her. No broken kneecaps, no mysterious accidents, just regular legal action. So Sarah lied about being in physical danger? Pretty much. She played it up to make your parents panic and put more pressure on you. This information hit me like a truck. Sarah had manipulated everyone, including our parents, into thinking her life was in danger when really she was just facing a lawsuit. Where are Mom and Dad living now? They're renting a small apartment with Sarah and David. All four of them crammed into a 2-bedroom place. I heard it's not going well. Lots of fighting. I actually felt bad for them. Not bad enough to reach out, but still. A few months passed, and I heard through the grapevine that my family was trying to contact me through mutual friends. They wanted to apologize, to explain themselves, to rebuild our relationship. Every time someone brought it up, I said no. Jenny called me one more time about it. Your mom asked me to tell you she's sorry. She said they realized they handled everything wrong. It's too late for sorry, I told her. They spent 5 years not caring whether I was alive or dead. Then they demanded I bankrupt myself for Sarah's mistakes. Then they committed crimes because I wouldn't do what they wanted. I'm done. But they're family, Celeste. No, they're not. Family doesn't abandon you for 5 years and then show up demanding money. Family doesn't hire private investigators to stalk you. Family doesn't break into houses with baseball bats. Marcus had been listening to my side of the conversation. When I hung up, he took my hand. You okay? I'm perfect, actually. We found a house we both love. I'm doing great at work, and I don't have to deal with their drama anymore. He smiled. Speaking of the house we love, I was thinking something bigger than an offer. I dropped to one knee in my living room, holding out a ring box. Celeste, will you marry me? Let's buy that house and start our life together. Tears of joy streamed down her face, the first in months. Yes, absolutely yes. We got engaged that day, made an offer on the house that weekend, and it was accepted. Our wedding's set for next year. Sometimes I wonder if cutting my family off was the right call. Then I feel the calm in my life, free from their endless drama and manipulation, and I know it was. Sarah dug her own hole with terrible business choices. Mom and Dad enabled her instead of letting her face the music. They all turned on me when I wouldn't bend to their demands, even resorting to crimes. I chose a life with someone who truly loves and supports me. I chose to guard my financial stability and peace of mind. I chose friends who don't scheme or threaten. I made the better choice. Marcus and I are planning our wedding, maybe kids down the line. My career's thriving, I even landed a promotion. I'm truly happy. Staying in their chaos would have robbed me of this. I don't regret it. Not one bit.